So I'm going to show you guys a little bit on this AutoCAD Autodesk system. If you don't know what I'm talking about right now, you need to figure out how to create an account. Go back. I've got a video listed under there on creating a Autodesk account. So this is what happens when you go to Autodesk web app, or as soon as you log in, you should be able to go to this. There's a link to get here. All right. What we're gonna do is click on New Drawing, and we're gonna name it kind of what always your last name, and then we'll whatever the main part of the object is. Like, let's say we're gonna draw my ID card. Okay, so we'll say ID card, and it has drawing units, imperial or metric. Well, metric if you want to work with millimeters, centimeters, I'm all for it. Go ahead. Imperial is working with feet and inches, decimals and fractions. So hit open. So a couple of the things I should show you right off the bat. If you need to save this, you click on the save command. And it says right up here, AutoCAD WebN Mobile Sports ID Card.dwg. That means that this has been saved, and that's the name it's under. You can hit save. If I want to change the name or save it in a different spot, that's when you click Save As. But for the most part, you just save it. It's going to keep it online, so it doesn't matter whether you go to your cell phone, your Chromebook, at-home computer, it's going to be there. Okay, so let's get started. Whole bunch of buttons, right? Whole bunch of symbols. It doesn't even tell you what some of these symbols are. You just kind of click till you get it. So we look over here. It's kind of set up. So views is showing you the views that you have. So model, your model drawing is the base drawing that everything is drawn off of, right? Everything is drawn in your model. And then in your layouts is where it's kind of laid out on a sheet of paper, if that's what you want to think about it. Or you can show certain things instead of showing the whole drawing. And then you can keep creating layouts and layouts and layouts. Why is that important? Because say in a model drawing, and I'm drawing a floor plan for a house, and I've got all the details shown in there. Like, okay, I want to show the floor joists, the subflooring, the underlayment, the carpet padding, the carpet, and then the furniture that goes on top of that. And then so you're showing all this stuff. Well, if you're like, I don't need to see all the carpeting and all that stuff, I just need to see the floor joists. That's what's cool about layouts, is you can get rid of all of those unnecessary things and just focus on what you need for that layout. So enough with that. If you click on this, it does minimize it off to the side, so it slides over. You see that? If I wanted to have it come back, you hit it, it comes back. So I would suggest always draw on model, and then you basically can eliminate things in layout without deleting them out of the model. Put it this way: if you delete something out of the model, it's gone. If you delete something out of the layout, it's only gone in the layout. So I'll eliminate that. The next one's properties. So this is where we can kind of choose how thick the line is, what layer it is. So we can choose different layers. Line type, so it's showing that it's at a scale of 1. Dimension style, it's showing decimal. So if I wanted to show fraction, I could click on this. And it doesn't just come up as like whatever. So ARCH is architectural 0.25, so that's a 1/4 inch. Architectural 3, 6, 12. I think that has a relationship to fractions of a foot. Standard, which I'm not sure. So we'll just leave it on what it's at right now. Text style, simplex, like if you want to change the type of text, it's fine with me. Leader style, these are things that kind of show an arrow, or we'll get into that later. Layers. So this is where we can create a new layer. So line 0 is basically what everything is drawn on. If we want to create a new layer, we can talk about that later. It's not important right now. blocks. So blocks are things um, that that are whole. So once you draw it, you can create a block for that. Like say if I want to draw, let's say an ID card. So I want to draw one. Well, I could create this and make this a block, and then I could just copy 50 of those blocks, and then they're in place, and you can't really delete them unless you do some different type of things. It does look like there's blocks already created for you, so we're going to browse for blocks. Nope, they're only the ones that I've drawn. And then XREF is something that's called uh, external reference is what it means. So you can attach references to something that's drawn externally, and then if somebody goes and changes that part. So if you think of it this way, there's a huge company at General Motors, let's say, and they have a starter, right? A starter to start your car up. And somebody says, well, we need to change that gear that's inside of that starter. One just little tiny piece, and an engineer changes it. And say before X references, he changes that little tiny gear. That's all his job is to draw those little gears. Well, say he finds out that that gear just needs to be, he thinks it needs to be a little bit smaller so it'll, engage the flywheel better. Okay, well, great, it does engage the flywheel better, but all of a sudden it stresses out a different part or another part doesn't fit to it. Well, that's because if you have this X reference, it'll update that part throughout every drawing. So it's kind of nice if you have one little part that makes up a bunch of big parts. You don't have to change. That starter might go in 50 different vehicles that GM makes. And since they had that one gear in there that he changed, well, they don't have to go in and change drawings for each one of those starters. They just change that one part, and then it changes that and throughout the rest of the drawing. So anyway, that stuff you really don't use. Blocks you really don't use. Layers you really don't use. Properties, you can change those if you like. Views, I really wouldn't change any of that either. So you can basically collapse that. But it is kind of nice to see the tools. Then down here, it's got everything you need to draw. So that looks like a rectangle. Well, that's what you need to do to draw a rectangle. This looks like a circle. That's what you need to do to draw a circle. This looks like an arc to me. That's what you need to do to draw an arc. This is a splined line, which means a line with curves in it. So I drew that. Great. There's a spline line. This one is a X line. So what this means is it's going to go on forever, an X line construction line. That means that line is going to go on any axis, any direction, infinitely. So I think they're nice for when you're drawing and making sure things are nice and square. But other than that, you can do the same thing with the line. Okay, this one, line. Polyline. Okay, so I can draw a line and then basically what it does. I thought this would put a radius on it. Specify next point or arc. So I'm going to click on arc. Okay. There. Now I drew the arc. So that's my polyline. Each one of these little blue things are called grips. So if you draw something and you're like, oh, dang it, I made a mistake right there, you can drag those grips wherever you want. Keep in mind, like once you drag it, starts dragging it, it's might be a pain in the butt to try and get it back to where it was. You can always, if you need to do that, there's an undo button right here, upper left-hand corner, looks like backwards. You can click that and it'll keep undoing. So the other thing that I use a lot is my keyboard. Control Z is undo. So if I'm going to delete something, click on delete. And the last one here is hatching, and that's kind of just to show detail on sketches where it's kind of a hidden line or might be a hole. So if I do something like this, draw a couple of circles, and overlap each other, I'm going to kind of draw something a little bit three-dimensional. I use the L command a lot instead of clicking on line. So say this is a soda can flipped on its side. Well, this area I'm exposed and able to see as well with this area, but this is a hidden area right here. So this is where you would use something like hatch. You can click in and specify internal point or select objects, draw boundaries, move boundaries, draw order. I'm looking at all this stuff down here. Hatch color, layer, transparency. So see there, it picks it up for me. So I just clicked on that. Asked me to confirm. Hit the enter button. So now that's a hatch shown in there. And now I can go in there and change what that hatch looks like, which we aren't going to worry about right now. But now you can see, like, okay, that portion is not able to be seen. It's kind of not supposed to be just solid white. So you know that. I'll show you that. When you want to delete something, you see how I click from the bottom right and go to upper left? Or I guess just right to left in general. It gives me a green box. When you see that green box, it means it's going to select everything that is within that green box, or excuse me, anything that is touching that green box. So if you look, when I do this, I'm not quite highlighted all the way to the top of that upper circle, but I can let go and it still highlights the whole thing. Let's see. So I just back out of it. And let's say I just only want to grab stuff that's within the blue box or within an area and I don't want to select everything that it touches. Well, if I go left to right, it's going to go blue. And that means everything that is within the box completely, it will highlight. So only one line here. So it just picks up that line. I'm going to delete that. It does not work if it's a solid object. So if you see here, see how this goes all the way around? So it doesn't matter if I highlight it like this, it's not going to select anything because part of the circle is outside the box. But now if I were to do that with the green and just barely touch both corners there, it's going to highlight them both. So again, these are grips, and when you see it in the middle like that, some have grip points where you can move them. Some have grip points where you can change the size or dimension or aspects of that. All right, delete. So say I've drawn whatever I want. Like I said, I was going to draw an ID card, right? I'll do that real quick. So my ID card is 2.125 wide. So I'm going to click on my rectangle. And it is 2.125. So it pops up on the bottom there. 2.125 wide, and then I'm going to measure the length. 3.3. 3.375. So then it's so I've got that one in. So to jump up to this other number, see how it's got a tab right there? Hit the tab button, and I said it was 3.375. I think. Hit enter. Super tiny, but it's there. So that is the size of my ID card. And if I want to add other things in there, like it's got the little cutout for my holder, do a polygon, let's say. this line out. Oh, zooming in and out is the um, rolling of your mouse. So see how I'm going to this other endpoint where I'm going to move it up, and it's going to automatically know that this is an intersection or an apparent intersection, and it will do that for me. So now I'm just going to draw an arc. Oops. Oh, that's not going to work. Another little tricky one. So I'm going to draw a line straight up through my midpoint. Okay, so I've drawn my line. The reason I want to do this is I'm going to mirror. So I can mirror this over on this side of the drawing. So I'm going to type in MI mirror, and it's under the modify, and it looks just like a mirror. I got to cover that stuff with. So it asks me down here, select object. So I just want to select. I'm not able to select it. No, that's the problem with the polyline. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just draw a circle. I just drew a circle that was the same size as this, and then I'm going to move it. Grab the center point, move it up, locks in place. I'm going to use that trim command, which looks like a pair of scissors. I can either hit that, or I can just punch in TR on the space board, and it comes up as trim. All I got to do is hover over to see if it will meet up with that object. What it should be. All I did is make my circle a little bit wider so it touches both top and bottom here. And I'll trim. To trim something, you have to have a start and an end point. So there's my little badge holder. And say I want to draw it on center. I could choose a whole bunch of different methods, but just drawing a simple construction line and then highlighting that object, moving it over. Move. MO is move. Select everything. And it's going to ask me for a start point and an end point. So a base point and where I want to move it to. Move it on center. Delete. I've drawn a ID card holder. So say I'm done with my drawing now. I can hit the save button just to make sure. Then it says quick save, good to go. If I want to get out of this drawing, I just click on AutoCAD Web App Mobile up here. There's no closing out of the thing. You just click on here, and then I see my drawing right there for the next time I want to go and work on it. The thing that's really nice about this is it's saved to their drawing or to their database, kind of like Google Drive, but for AutoCAD. So if I click on samples, if you want to see what some drawings look like, post floor plan, let's do drive roller assembly. So these are pretty complex drawings or engineering drawings, and it depends. Like there are different drawings for different facilities. Not everybody follows the same rules, but there are general rules that need to get followed. And this looks like more of an assembly drawing, like the parts, the list of the parts you need up here, and then those are all labeled here. So if somebody were to look and say customer service, somebody breaks a gear off, and they say, "Yeah, I broke the gear off on this shaft they aren't going to know the part number, but see it's labeled down here. Toughened glass, pivot. Oh, there it is. Drive roller assembly lower. So drive roller assembly lower. Somebody calls in and says, yeah, I broke the gear off. Customer service rep goes, okay. Looks like you need part number 1 off this drawing. They can zoom in and then they see the part number. Okay, yeah, this thing takes 1 VW02-210. Anyway, that's kind of how drawings work. So when you guys get on here, just play around. You're not going to screw anything up. If you accidentally save something, no big deal. We'll get rid of it. But the thing, too, I want you to do is make sure that you're saving it, your last name, and whatever it is that you're drawing. Because as you get going and you get more files in your life, which you're going to get a lot of, being organized online is a huge part of that, especially with drawings or anything, really. I go back and reference stuff all the time. Be nice and organized, it helps you. So your last name, whatever the part is, and don't put like Swartz ID card new. We want to label it like Swartz ID card. And then if we have a revision to that, it's called Swartz ID card Rev 2 or revision 2. So they call that in the industry as bumping a rev number. So when anything changes, you go in there, you update a drawing, you bump the rev number up, revision number, and that should be listed right there. There's an addition, and sometimes they'll have it over on the left-hand side here that says rev number or rev bump, and the person who did it and the date. So then if something changed, they can go back and talk to them, like to see what happened or why they changed it. So, all right, I think that's it. So now I'm just going to go back to my AutoCAD web app. Click on that. That's it. If you want to add storage provider, I guess you could link your Google Drive or whatever it may be that you use. But for this is fine. To be honest, I'm just going to delete these 2 because they're just example drawings. I don't need them. And the longer it goes, the longer I forget what it is, and it's just going to build up space. All right, get on there, play around a little bit. I just want you to kind of see how the program operates, and just sit down and work with it for even 15 minutes is just fine. All right, we'll see you guys in class.